can hear them before you see them. The synchronized thunder of thousands of hobnailed sandals beating the earth in unison. The clash of iron plates, the barked orders in Latin echoing through narrow valleys and foreign forests. From the Scottish highlands to the sun-blasted sands of Judea, the Roman legions carved their empire with steel, stone, and sweat. But behind every battle won, every city sacked, and every fortress razed was one unsung element, the thing that made every conquest possible: food. Not feasts, not decadent meals, but a soldier's ration, monotonous, bitter, rugged, and essential. This is the story of the Roman war diet, a tale not of generals or strategy, but of porridge and vinegar, of how simplicity fueled supremacy. The Roman soldier, or miles, was the most disciplined war machine the world had ever seen. He marched over 20 miles a day, clad in armor, with 40 kilograms of gear on his back. At the day's end, he didn't rest. He dug defensive trenches, constructed a fortified camp, stood guard, and prepared for the next advance. Yet, through it all, he survived and conquered, not on lavish meals, but on a diet that was as disciplined as the man himself. There were no field kitchens, no mobile chefs. Every soldier cooked his own meals, ground his own grain, and rationed his own vinegar. There was no room for indulgence, only fuel. And yet, it worked. For over 5 centuries, Rome expanded across continents. Its army endured harsh winters in Germania, blistering summers in Syria, and famines in Gaul, all while powered by what many today would barely call food. At the heart of this quiet miracle was pulse, a simple porridge of spelt or barley, and posca, a sour, diluted vinegar drink that stung the throat but kept thirst at bay. Generals like Gaius Marius reformed not just tactics but logistics, turning food into a weapon of endurance. And men like Julius Caesar proved time and time again that a legion fed on barley and vinegar could defeat armies twice its size. The Roman Empire didn't just rise on the back of the sword, it rose on the back of the spoon. The day begins before the sun. The cold clings to the skin like wet cloth. A Roman soldier, his back stiff from the earth beneath him, stirs from uneasy sleep. There's no breakfast waiting in a mess tent, only a sack of grain, a dented pan, and a few smoldering embers left from the last watch. This is the rhythm of life in the Roman legions. Before the enemy is faced, before the fort is built, the pulse must be cooked. This porridge, gray, bitter, and bland, is no culinary triumph, but it is the Empire's true secret weapon. Pulse, made from barley, spelt, or wheat, became the foundation of every legionary's life. Ground from whole grain using small portable mills, it was mixed with water and boiled into a thick paste. Sometimes a few beans or lentils were added. If luck favored them, perhaps a splash of oil or a pinch of salt. Most often, it was eaten as is, sticky, heavy, and steaming. Alongside it came posca, a sour drink made from watered-down wine vinegar. At first, it repulsed new recruits, but in time, they learned to savor it. The acidity cut through the dust of the march, purified questionable water, and provided just enough sting to feel alive. This was not indulgence, this was fuel, and the Roman war machine ran with brutal efficiency. The average soldier carried 3 days' worth of rations on his back, in addition to armor, weapons, tools, and gear. Behind him, mule trains carried bulk supplies, grain, vinegar, salt pork, legumes, transported across continents via Rome's legendary roads. Every grain was weighed, every jug accounted for. When a legion marched, it did so not blindly, but with a moving logistical skeleton. Centurions and quartermasters calculating daily consumption, local foraging, and the proximity of supply depots. In battle, the difference between victory and annihilation often came down to food. During Caesar's campaigns in Gaul, his ability to maintain steady rations gave his forces the stamina to siege cities for weeks and march across rivers with little rest. His enemies often starved before they ever met a Roman blade. On the contrary, Caesar's troops, though weary, still had pulse in their bellies and vinegar in their flasks. But when food failed, the price was steep. Nowhere is this clearer than in the catastrophic Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in 9 AD. Led by the overconfident Publius Quintilius Verus, 3 Roman legions entered the Germanic wilderness expecting an easy march. Instead, they found themselves bogged in swamps and thick forests, their lines stretched thin, their supply wagons stuck in the mud. The rain soaked their grain. Fires couldn't be lit. The pulse turned to rot in their packs. Cold, wet, and underfed, morale collapsed. Hunger gnawed at their resolve before the Germanic ambush ever struck. When the assault began, it wasn't just arrows and spears that doomed them. It was the days of failed nourishment that had already broken their strength. Food, or the lack of it, didn't just sustain life, it shaped morale, discipline, and fear. The greatest generals knew this. Scipio Africanus, during the campaigns in Iberia and North Africa, was known to enforce strict ration discipline even after victory. Celebrations were rare. Spoils were controlled. Bread remained bread. For the moment soldiers forgot the purpose of their diet, the foundation of their endurance began to crack. Occasionally, there were moments of luxury. A successful raid might yield smoked meats, fresh cheeses, or barrels of wine. But these were fleeting, celebrated with caution. For a Roman soldier, comfort was a dangerous illusion. Too much softness dulled the edge of survival, and in the next campaign, it could mean the difference between holding the line or being swallowed by it.
When the dust of battle settled and the banners were planted in foreign soil, the Roman legions did not rest. They rebuilt, fortified, dug ditches, patrolled borders, and through it all they ate. Pulse, posca, hard cheese, salted olives. Day after day, week after week. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Their diet had become ritual, a discipline carved into the stomach and soul. Rome's grip on the known world was not only maintained through might, but through mastery of logistics. As conquests expanded, grain became more than food. It became a political weapon. Egypt fed the capital. Sicily and North Africa stocked the garrisons. Grain ships lined the ports of Ostia like veins pumping lifeblood into the heart of an empire. When those shipments stalled, the empire trembled. Even the city of Rome understood this dependence. The Annona, a state-sponsored grain distribution system, ensured the urban masses didn't starve and didn't rebel. Bread wasn't just nourishment, it was control. For the soldier, though, the diet ate something deeper. Men who spent decades along the Rhine, the Euphrates, or Hadrian's Wall returned, not craving delicacies, but the taste of barley cooked over a fire, and the sour bite of vinegar after a long march. What had once been mere survival had become memory, brotherhood, identity. This was the legacy of Rome's war diet, not just a way to feed an army, but to forge a soldier, not in flavor, but in fortitude. And long after Rome fell, when her cities crumbled and her legions scattered, the image of the Roman soldier remained, not feasting at a banquet, but kneeling beside a fire, eating quietly from a steaming bowl, waiting for the next call to march. Victory belongs to the most persevering, Napoleon would later say, but centuries before him, the Romans already knew endurance begins with the stomach. If this story stirred something in you, an ember of curiosity, a hunger for more forgotten truths of Rome's power, then join us. Subscribe, hit the bell, and march with us into the next legend of the empire. Because the battle never ends, the stories just get deeper.